How's it going, everyone? This is Griever back here, bringing you a behind-the-bar review for 7 Deadly Sins. Now, as you can tell, I don't have a drink because I'm not a big fan of white liquors, and even though I have bottles back here, as you can tell, I'm kind of out of rum, and I don't have any beer, and, you know, I'm at a Crown. Like, I just don't have anything to really get myself prepared for this chapter. You know what? Screw it. We need... Alcohol is a necessity when you read chapters like this. Alcohol is a requirement. Alcohol is something that is needed for when you deal with such things. Yeah, sure, why not? Gin. Gin's good. We all like gin, right? Promoting gin. So, let's get a little bit of gin in there. Oh yeah, a little bit of gin. In English terms, yeah, a little bit. So, now, look, I had everything ready for this. I'm prepared. Back here, I have pops galore. I have different mixes and all that stuff, because if you have the right amount of ice cubes in a chiller, like I do, you don't have to worry about such things as like going to a fridge. Though I do have a mini fridge down here. That being said, let's just mull this over for a moment. Yep, still don't like gin. Anyways, this chapter of 7 Deadly Sins. Oh, why is it so painful? Why is this so hard to do? Merlin is a walking, talking Exodia. Merlin is a game shark when you were playing Pokemon. It was giving you the Master Ball cheats and giving you Missigno and all this other stuff. It's the walking equivalent to in an RPG battle. If you can deal 9,999 damage, like in Final Fantasy, but screw that, we're going to break that limit so you can do even more damage. You have not just an ability that blocks all their spells, but suffice to say, every time they try to attack you, it's one of those things, like, have you ever seen ban lists for the old, like, for Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and stuff? Because certain combinations of cards are an infinite loop that just, the game is broken and it ends, and that's why they have ban lists and restrictions, and that's why game glitches occur where the boss can't be killed or you can't die sort of idea. Those things that are exploited. Merlin is that. Merlin is a glitch in the game that is Nanatsu no Taizai. Merlin is the glitch. I understand that Merlin should be very powerful. The fact is, and from a narrative perspective, let's just go back for a second. We'll get into the chapter in a moment. But from a narrative perspective, it wasn't a bad... There's reasons for her to be OP. Not broken, but OP. Because she was someone blessed and born with the magical ability of infinity. This, as we know, is a rather broken ability. It's not perfect. It's not invincible. But it is certainly, when trained and used by a proper mind and such, it is it has the capability of being top tier way up here. But by itself, not broken. Then, the Supreme Deity and the Demon King both give her blessings. She manages to do a double, trick them, and get both out of the resulting chaos. So she's already... And that narratively all makes sense. The issue lies with the fairy tale level crap that she's pulling right now. We are not seeing... All we're seeing is the defensive capabilities of all these things. Every ability is thwarted. She has a drain, a resist, a block to everything, and almost is stretching the actual ability of her magic power to the limit. Because remember what Infinity does. Infinity is not adding attack 1.00 times infinity. That's not what it's doing. It's not upping her intelligence stat to infinity or her magic attack to infinity. That's not what it's doing. All it does is that no matter how much mana, no matter how much magical power a spell takes to cast, she can cast it. And she only needs to cast it once, and it will stay forever. A very easy way of saying this, she uses Fire Aga, Fire 3, something like that. She uses a fire spell, and this flame will now never go out. She doesn't have to turn it off. She can do whatever. She stopped her own time. All this stuff in the limitations of infinity because she casted the spell. The problem is that her spell capabilities cannot be this OP. Sure, she's powerful, but what exactly changed from her being in the 4,000 range of magical power to fighting people in the 200k zone? It doesn't make sense. Infinity times power amplify times her Aldani thing, the infinity orb, whatever, her magical treasure, her sacred treasure. It doesn't matter. If you have an attack power of 4 and you double it with power amplify, that is 8. And then you use infinity to increase that further. Let's say it's now squared or something. Let's go, it goes from 4 to 8 to 32 or 64 or something. Let's do all that, and including the sacred treasure and all this. Using all of that, the attack power still has a limitation, and she can't infinitely utilize this, otherwise there's no threat, and it's too broken. So she has to have a set number, and using this skill of 8 to 4 to 8 to 64, whatever, if the opponent has a defense of 100, a magical defense of 100 at this point, or is level 100, however you want to use this analogy, it doesn't matter. Sure, she's gone from 4 to 8 to 64, which is nuts, but the opponent in front of her still has almost double the defense. So the attack is not going to do very much damage, if any at all. And the problem is that the author, Nakaba, seems to be taking infinity in both directions. He's using it for an infinite cast, an infinite mana pool, and a infinity times attack power resource. And he's got to stop. This needs to stop. Because all it's doing is, like this chapter, making me drink alcohol that I don't even like. Okay, I think I've calmed down. I think the veins have all gone down at this point. So, the chapter itself, we'll probably discuss this page by page in the Boar's Hat podcast, link in the description below. Great bunch of people. Go follow that as well. But suffice to say, to go by this page by page is kind of irrelevant, because in doing a 6-minute rant at the beginning of this video to talk about the problems with Merlin's character all stem from this chapter. And continuous times during the course of this chapter, they explicitly explain that this is unfair, this is dirty, this is just asinine, this can't work like this. And honestly, it doesn't, nothing in any of the spells, okay. So Chandler and Cusack set up at the end of the last chapter and the chapter before to be even more powerful than Zeldris, even more powerful potentially than Meliodas, to be the top-ranked demons, the most powerful demons in the realm. And they still have seals on their power, and they have no weaknesses. They're just tanks. Now Merlin has to create an opening, sort of idea. We have to create some weaknesses. So they're both standing there like, what are you going to do? What happens here is Merlin is continuously using a number of spells. Okay. She's using a number of spells. She figured out, using double impact and a bunch of other spells, that the resistance out of like a stat sheet, like an RPG game, Chandler and Cusack have different resistances and strengths and debuffs and all that stuff, from what I understand. And Cusack is most weak to wind. Chandler is most weak to thunder. Why? Don't know. I guess Chandler's a water-type Pokemon. What ends up happening is she continuously, with Infinity and Power Amplify and blah blah blah, 100 spells that she seems to be casting like nothing, have somehow created that their resistance, she's using basically a debuff spell that continuously, with Infinity's power, continuously lowers Chandler and Cusack's resistance to these elements every single time they're hit by them. Okay, I can kind of see where that's going. Like, they had a little bit of, it wasn't phasing them, but it keeps double impact. It continuously multiplies the power of the element that's being used. The thing is, I don't understand a few things. She casts a bunch of spells, suffice it to say, and they're just being floored. They try to do something, it's just not working. Redestiel's just like, even I think this is unfair. There's a little part with Hendrickson asking for Gil Thunder to be healed, and Redestiel's just like, no. So, still an asshole. Anyways, suffice it to say, within all this, Chandler also tries to use Absolute Cancel, which is an ability that would work in this scenario. It would cancel all these spells, and they could be back on even footing. Now, could Merlin start casting them all again? Of course she could, but maybe they could Speed Blitz her. Still, Absolute Cancel. This would be a mage fight, which we were all hyped for. We saw the swords, let's see the mages. And nope. According to Merlin, now once again this could be translation, but every time they move, every time they speak, every time they raise their eyebrows, stifle a sneeze, and try to cast a spell, they're going to be hit by this random attack that she doesn't even need to touch anymore. Every time they move a shoulder, Chandler gets zapped by lightning, Cusack gets wind all cutting him up all over the place, and the resistance keeps lowering, and the attack power keeps doubling. That's what I took away. Now, regardless, maybe some of that is I'm misinterpreting it. Suffice it to say, the attacks are getting stronger and worse. They are taking significant more damage every time. And it doesn't seem like they are actually able to do anything about this. Even Merlin states, I don't even know what this concoction is. Like, this hurts my brain. No, this really does. This hurts me because there is no reason. Two things, I think. There's no reason why Chandler attempting to cast Absolute Cancel should, this is just unfair. Absolute Cancel, he should still be able to cast it. And even if he's hit by that, what's stopping him from down on the ground using Absolute Cancel to cancel these spells? That's one thing. Now you can say, well, that requires movement and all that such. And I'm like, yeah, but, are they not moving on the ground right now? I don't see a constant lightning bolt. He's not totally just not even moving a finger, so there seems to be something along those lines. And no spell, I believe, that she casts, she lists all the spells, and she says when you move. But, anyways, that's unfair. That's really dirty. That's unfair. And the fact that Cusack managed to use his resonance, his eye power, I mean, maybe that because it's, non-verbal and he doesn't really need to do anything but widen his eyes. But then, his eyes changed, so clearly he should be zapped again or something. But during all this, another problem I have is the fact that according to Merlin, during this whole time, now the thunder and wind spirits are all over the place. That's why she doesn't need to continuously cast them or do anything. They are continuously floating in the area, basically, waiting for the attack sort of idea. Once again, translation, but this makes no sense. And it doesn't make sense why it wouldn't attack everybody. She says within this space. So if Chandler and Cusack jump out, right beside Merlin, she's not going to take some of the lightning to strike too? It's not making enough sense to me personally. Not so much the brokenness and the OP-ness, but this combination doesn't make sense. There's no spell like this, and it's not explained well. And I don't care how you want to justify it. You can say bad translation. We can wait for the proper one all day. My stance on this will not change. This is prime, quality, AAA grade bullshit. That's all it is. And the fact that even Resonance, an Attack of the Mind and stuff, Once again, it makes sense within Merlin's character to have a strong willpower. So her will would not be easily dominated and such. And she goes back into her little girl form inside the mind, and Cusack talks to her a little bit, and you think there's something going on, but then it's like, nope, you can't dominate my will. As far as I was aware, resonance was not a commandment. So nothing, she talks about the Supreme Deity's blessings and her own, training her own mind. This is one of the oldest demons with eons of experience and power. I don't care how many mental exercises Merlin did. That doesn't make any sense. She should not be able to, no, she shouldn't just be able to brush aside his unique ability like that. That shouldn't be a thing. And what about Chandler? Like, he tried to use absolute cancel. That didn't work. What about full counter? Like, that's not going to work either because he moves. Like, what? Like, none of this. And, okay. I'm done ranting about that. We'll talk about that on the Boar's Hat. But I am just so... I don't know what to do with this chapter, guys. I don't know what to do. Right now, I hated this chapter. This chapter is a 0. A 0. It's nothing. It's got no good redeeming qualities. No, I should say, it's got a 0.5. 0.5. And the reason is, this bullshit is coming to an end. Because Zeldris gets back up. He's got his magic ruler ability. And it's like, I have the power of the Demon King. So I just nerfed all that shit without even having to move. Because I have ruler. Ruler does that. None of this magic works. It's like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, alright, so even with the nerfing and the crap that's going on with Merlin, this is going to be interesting. Nope, because Rudessiel actually does one thing. Attacks a damaged... and I know the Rudessiel fanboys are going to be like, the grace of flesh! But it's an injured Zeldris who's now trying to take on, oh my... Ugh. And then Rudessiel totes like he was the one who had the victory when he had 5 opportunities where he was going to get beheaded this entire battle and literally took 1 cheap shot and 1 attack after fighting 3 weakened demons. So he did nothing. We all say that. He got them into the cocoon, talked a big game, got smacked around a bunch, and got 1 shot in. That's all he did. And then he totes I won the war, yes, it's all because of me. It had nothing to do with the fact that if Escanor and Merlin weren't here, I would have died 9 times. So, all fine dandy there. As I said, 0.5 because this is coming to an end. Because this is the moment they chose that everyone's getting their memories back. Rudessiel starts freaking out. Why do I keep thinking of Esther Rose's face? He was the one who killed Mael. Why do I keep seeing that? And the memories are starting to shift. This is when Gother's spell is deactivated. Finally, because if this went on for another chapter of this Merlin crap, I don't think I'd read the chapter. I would just talk to the guys on the Discord. I'd talk to my friends. And I would wait until we skipped this battle after that. Because this made me honestly mad. This is part of what... You think power levels ruin manga series? No, this fairy tale level crap is what ruins manga series. It's why people drop them. And it's very infuriating to see such a good story and good character get this type of treatment. It's ludicrous. So, end page of the chapter, we get that Meliodas may or may not break out of the cocoon, but the spell has been lifted. And another inconsistency, we saw the effects on everybody when the spell was lifted. Escanor was in his manly form, and we have no sign that Chandler is actually dead and down for the count, so that makes no sense. Gilthunder isn't wounded, while Rudessiel is double-loaded in pain like he currently is at the end of this chapter. We see Cusack and Zeldris totally fine. Zeldris has no wounds on him. So the inconsistency from not even a few chapters, or what was it, 10, 15 chapters ago, makes so that there's a big retcon here now because they probably, this does not feel planned out at this point. You drew panels a couple months back, and he couldn't even keep them consistent to the current chapter. Like, what are you doing? So, all right, guys, I'm done. This was a long review, and I don't even want to call it a review. We're going to call this the rant. I'll even change the title in the description. We are going to call this the chapter rant, because we may or may not be doing the Boar's Hat podcast later, guys. That's usually posted the following day, so on Tuesday. It all depends on Grim. Great guy. So if you want to hear my thoughts along with some of the other major players in the Taizai community, please go check that out. Once again, link in the description down below. I don't know what to say anymore, guys. Seven Deadly Sins is great. This was a terrible chapter, but Seven Deadly Sins is still great. I'm hoping that I can get past this, and the next chapter will be a great chapter to forget that this kind of ever happened. Just block it out of my memory. I'll get a little bit topsy-turvy tonight with a little bit of this this lovely white stuff here, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Wow, that sounded dirty. I don't care. Anyways, guys, please drink responsibly as always. This has been Griever with your Behind the Bar Rant edition this day. Thanks, guys. See you back here next week.